Hi and welcome back to a brand new YouTube video. Today we got another tier list and that is ranking every single season of my favourite Juventus player of all time, Paulo Dybala. As you could tell by the title, as you could tell by the shirt I'm wearing, backwards, front. Is that the right way? Front backwards, the wrong way round. It's the wrong way round, but you can tell. Someone actually did suggest this in the comment section on my last tier list video on YouTube. So shout out to you, bro. I've taken your idea and we're gonna use it. And as always, before we get into the video, make sure you subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. We're so close to 10k subs. Like the video, share it to some friends, and as always, boys, let me know in the comment section what you think. This is just my opinion, not the correct opinion. Without further ado, let's get into the video. As you can see, this is the tier list. There is every version of Paulo Dybala from the 11-12 season to last season, in order as well, and we're going to try and rank them into 5 different categories. We got the GOAT category. That is only one season. I can only put his best ever season, in my opinion, there. We got incredible, we got good, we got decent, and we got bad. Realistically, there's not many bad seasons for Dybala at all. I'm thinking maybe only one is in here, but we'll see. Starting off with the 11-12 season when he was at Primera Nacional, scoring 17 goals, which is really impressive for a 17, 18-year-old back then in Argentina. But it's really hard to find clips of Dybala from his early days in Argentina. It's actually impossible. His earliest montages on YouTube, on the internet, are from Palermo. However, he did make a name for himself in Argentina, got the attention of various different European clubs, including Palermo, who eventually signed him, brought him to the Serie A, where he did show his brilliance. For me, Dybala here, he's very young. It's a rookie Dybala. We're going straight into decent. No real argument here. Can't really put him higher. Can't really put him lower. Decent is fair. Moving on to the 12-13 season, his debut season in the Serie A for Palermo. Now, this one is hard to rank because we need to consider he's an 18, 19-year-old just arrived in Italy, has to adapt to the Serie A, which is a level above the Argentinian league, of course, no disrespect. He scored 3 league goals that season. He wasn't a consistent starter. He was on the bench for a lot of the season. He was really only playing consistently from like November to January time. Then he got benched again. We saw glimpses of brilliance, but we didn't see enough really to put him in the good, incredible sort of category. And then when you look at a player like Paulo Dybala, we think about what he went on to become. So you're like, 3 goals for Dybala isn't good, but he was 18, 19. This was his first season in the league. I can't put him in bad because you didn't really know what to expect. It was his first year, as I said. He was very young. He's starting at 0 there. So it's only an improvement getting 3 goals because you can't really compare the Argentinian league and the Serie A. So I can't put him in bad. That would just be unfair. That would be asinine. So I have to put him in decent for me. But soon we're really going to climb the ranks here with the seasons coming. Moving on, of course, to the 13-14 season where Paulo Dybala backed himself 5 goals and gotten 6 assists. So his first season with over 10 goal contributions. Pretty good. Yes, however, it was in the Serie B because the season prior, Palermo did unfortunately get relegated, but Dybala started to play more consistently. He was on a really good run until he got injured and he was not in the squad for a good 10 games in a row. And really, the injuries sort of killed Dybala in general in his career. We'll talk about this really later on when it really started to affect his career, but we sort of saw glimpses in 2013, 2014 of his muscular problems, the issues Dybala would have later down the line in his career. Regardless though, he improved massively upon last season. He was a driving factor in why Palermo got promoted back to the Serie A year later. So for me, I'm looking at this season sort of in good, decent. Yeah, for me, it's got to be good. His numbers were good. He helped them get promoted. He was the main man now at Palermo pretty much. Miccoli was no longer at Palermo in these times. So Dybala really had to take the reins and bring them to the Serie A, which he did. So I have to put it in good. Moving on to his best season in his career at Palermo, the 14-15 season. For me, it goes straight into incredible. Despite the fact that Paulo was only 20 years old in this season, he got 10 goals and 13 assists in the Serie A. Over 20 goal contributions for a 20-year-old for Palermo. Not an incredible side at all. And you need to remember, this was only his second season in the Serie A. The first season was 2 years ago when he was 18. I still remember this season vividly, bro. Dybala with the Nike Mercurials. He was sponsored by them at the time. He had those orange ones, the red Superflies. And bro, there were so many iconic performances. He scored a crazy goal at Genoa, I believe, when Perin was actually in goal. Beautiful left-footed finesse shot, sort of like foreshadowing what we'd see in the coming years for Dybala at Juventus. I remember one performance he dropped at the San Siro against AC Milan. And I still remember the day I found out he signed for Juventus. It was through my dad, bro. I was 11, 12, bro. I wasn't on social media checking who signed for who. My dad told me we signed this young star from Palermo called Paulo Dybala. I'd seen moments of him. I had watched the odd game when I was 11 years old. And then I watched his montages on YouTube. And I was like, wow, this kid is sick. This kid looks like the next Messi almost. Again, foreshadowing what's to come. But for me, 14-15 Dybala is one of his best seasons for sure, bro. Now we get into the best bit, Paolo's time at Juventus. Wow. What a period. As I said at the start of the video, my favourite Juventus player ever. So this bit here might get me a little bit emotional, as will it for many of you watching. 15-16 Dybala, again, absolutely incredible. Absolutely incredible. 31 goal contributions in all comps. 21 goals, bro. As a second striker, a number 10. He wasn't meant to be the main gunman in that team. There was Morata still. There was Mandzukic, who just signed for the club. There were a lot of goal threats. There was obviously Pogba in the middle of the park. Cuadrado just signed. But Paulo didn't feel pressure. That's what they do. Top young talents like Paulo, they shine when it matters. They don't feel pressure. It's quite funny actually. Pressure makes diamonds, and Paulo is known as the jewel. I want to say he scored on his debut in the Supercoppa final, but he was just great throughout that whole season, bro. Scored against Bayern Munich as well in the Champions League at home. Really, really good finish against Manuel Neuer. But this season here, he was building into the player he would become. I'm pretty certain in saying this was the first season where the whole world started to notice Paulo Dybala. Like, even people that didn't watch the Serie A, they were starting to hear murmurs. They were starting to hear noise around this young Argentine. Wow, who is this guy? Is he the next Messi? Is he going to be the heir to Messi's throne? Who is this kid? This left-footed wonder kid that's tearing it up for Juventus? Who is this guy? And for me, this was just an incredible season for Paulo. Of course, we can't not mention the link-up he had with Paul Pogba that season. It's a real shame that they only played 1 year together, because to this day, they're one of the coldest football duos of all time in the history of the sport. Them times there was Neymar, Messi, Bale, Ronaldo, Pogba, Dybala. Those were the duos, bro. Kids nowadays know about Nico Williams, Lamine Yamal. Now, forget all that. Pogba, Dybala was where it was at. The dabbing, everything about it was just perfect, bro. Moving on to probably the most iconic, most famous season of Paulo Dybala, the 16-17 season. Now, this was the season where the whole world knew his name. Every single football fan across planet Earth knew who Paulo Dybala was. And that was because of one performance, one game, 90 minutes entering April 2017, when FC Barcelona came to Torino, post the remontada, and they had to go against the best defensive team in the world. People were looking at Neymar. People were looking at Suarez. People were looking at the main Argentine in Lionel Messi, the best of all time. But there was another Argentine that shone brighter than the crown jewel of crown jewels, Paulo Dybala. He outshone Lionel Messi that night. He outshone Neymar that night. He outshone every player on the football pitch. A brace in Juventus' 3-0 victory against the favourites, Barcelona. I still remember watching that game in Italy, man, and I was like, wow, this is going to be a tough game. But as soon as Paulo just spun on his left foot when Cuadrado played it into him, spun, finesse shot, bottom bins, I was calm. I was relaxed. I was like, wow, we might actually go through. And then what? Mandzukic cuts it back, edge of the box, Paulo Dybala, left foot finesse shot again. Bro, come on, man. He had the finesse shot on lock. I believe he had 28 goal contributions this season as well. This, for me, is just one of the most iconic individual seasons for any player in the 2010s, for sure. Just everything about Dybala was perfect this season. His whole aesthetic was just iconic. It was iconic, to say the least. Everyone wanted that tattoo he had on his arm. He had the Adidas gloves, the comb over no fade, the football crown tat on calf, the blackout boots. He started doing the Mars celebration. That is one of the most iconic versions of any player we've seen in the 2010s, for sure. And everyone loved Dybala, bro, regardless of who you supported. People had Dybala as their Instagram profile picture, and they didn't even support Juventus. They had no connection to Juventus whatsoever. A lot of football fans would probably say 16-17 Dybala was his GOAT version. But for me, it wasn't. It's his most iconic. It's his most memorable, for sure. However, I don't think it was the most refined version of Paulo we've seen. Therefore, it's going into incredible, but it is close. It's top 3 for sure, but it's not quite first. Moving on to 17-18 Dybala, which is in that conversation for the GOAT. Honestly, it's a 50-50 between this season and another season coming. It's really hard to select, because for me, this season is by far and away his best goal scoring season in his career. He scored 22 goals in the league alone, 26 goals in all comps, 7 assists, tallying to 32 goal contributions. In terms of GA, this is the highest we've seen. And in terms of goal scoring prowess, bro, the ceiling. It's there. Like, there's no season better. He was scoring hat-tricks for fun, bro. That hat-trick at Sassuolo is one of the best hat-tricks I've seen in Serie A history. When you talk about footballers mastering one shot, he mastered the finesse shot. Every time Dybala picked up the ball on his left foot outside of the box, whether that be a free kick or in normal play, he was going to wrap it. He was going to wrap it like that chicken wrap in your local Tesco. And every time it went in, it was guaranteed it was in. And him in this yellow kit right here, bro, oh my goodness. The memories here are crazy. Obviously, people will be thinking about the Tottenham game. He scored. Beautiful finish against Lloris at Wembley. What a goal that was. Of course, the Sassuolo hat-trick, as I said, I believe he scored a screamer at Benevento that season. And I remember at Christmas time, he was the Serie A top scorer against the likes of Icardi, against the likes of Higuain, top strikers in the Serie A that season. He didn't eventually finish as the capocannoniere, but up until Christmas, he was the capocannoniere. As again, a second striker, a number 10. It was fake, bro. His run up until like December, January, oh my goodness, crazy. But then he had that hamstring injury at the end of January, which set him aside for a good few games, sort of disrupted his rhythm, but he still ended the season strong. Honestly, it's such a tough one. I think this is the best goal-scoring version of Dybala, as I said, but I'm going to put it in incredible. I think there's a better season, to be honest. Moving on to 18-19 Dybala, and here we start to drop off a little bit. Imagine Dybala's career as this when he's at Juventus. Here, we've gone down slightly for various reasons. Some say it's because of the injuries he had in that season. Some say it's because of the change of system we played. Some say it's because there was just so much attacking threat. And a lot of people say it's because of the arrival of Cristiano Ronaldo, which I do think is probably the main reason in the 18-19 season why Dybala's numbers dropped. He wasn't the main man at Juventus anymore. The best player in the world at the time arrived. However, it was still a good season. He had 15 goal contributions in all competitions. He had some memorable moments. For me personally, the most memorable was the goal at Old Trafford. I was there in the 1-0 win. Dybala scored. The hat-trick against Young Boys in the Champions League. He still had his moments. He just wasn't as prolific as he was in the two previous seasons. Also, Mandzukic really stepped up his game that season. Douglas Costa was there. Bernardeschi was there. There were so many different options we had in the attack. Sometimes Dybala just wouldn't play, or he'd play out wide. It was a weird system. Ronaldo and Mandzukic would just be moving around. It just didn't suit Dybala perfectly, in my opinion. Despite this, though, it's still a good Dybala season. However, now we are at the GOAT season. The best Dybala season of all time for me is the 19-20 season. I have this as the number one. I say this for a multitude of reasons. It wasn't his highest GA tally season ever. 17-18 was. He had 2 more goal contributions compared to this season. Dybala had 31 goal contributions in 19-20, but it was his most balanced in terms of goal scoring and playmaking. He had 17 goals and 14 assists in all comps, 11 and 11 in the Serie A. This season here kind of epitomized, I think, Dybala's goal scoring and playmaking abilities into one. Sarri loved possession ball. Sarri loved technical players, and Dybala was his crown jewel almost. Dybala was the main piece of the puzzle, let's say. He was the queen on the chessboard. You had Ronaldo, but Ronaldo was the goal scorer. Ronaldo was the finalizer. Him and Dybala, for me, this season is where their link-up became unplayable. It became perfect. And Dybala actually only missed 2 games of the whole Serie A season due to injury, which is really, really impressive, bro. However, I do remember against Lyon, he suffered from injuries, which wasn't ideal, because we did get knocked out to them in the Champions League. He won the Serie A MVP this season. He was the best player in the Serie A. And of course, we can't forget the best goal, in my opinion, he's ever scored in his career against Inter, bro. Some say that Atletico Madrid free kick. He also scored in that season, by the way, which is up there. But for me, that solo run against Inter, when he knocked it down, little 1-2 with Ramsey, that won us the league. That was where I was like, yeah, we've won the league because of this Argentine right here. I think he combined goal scoring and playmaking to the highest peak of his career in this season. So I got that in the GOAT season. Moving on to 2020-21 Dybala, and this season hurts. This season hurts because this was the most injury-ridden season for Dybala at Juventus by a mile. Go look at his injury record in the 2020-21 season. You're just going to see a whole lot of red. Whole lot of red. Like that song. I don't know the song, but it's from a song. But, bro, this season was sad. It was sad, bro. Like, I think he still did all right. In the Serie A, I think he had 4 goals, 3 assists. Like, he had his moments, but he just never played. And I think he could have offered that Pirlo team so much. Obviously, this season we brought in Chiesa, so we didn't have to rely too much on Dybala. And he still had moments of brilliance, like the assist at the San Siro to Chiesa for the 1-0 the first goal. But he was just killed with injuries. Dybala was constantly injured in the 2020-21 season. We didn't see the same Dybala that we were used to at Juventus, which was sad. And I think this was the season where the board were like, we might not be able to renew Paulo, which is the sad thing. For his standard, this was a poor season. We have to consider injuries, which weren't his fault, but that's why I'm going to put it in bad. We just didn't see Dybala enough. Moving on to 21-22 Dybala, the most underrated season for Dybala, in my opinion, in his career. Obviously, this was the shirt, 21-22, that I'm wearing now from that season. His last season at Juventus, probably the worst season I've ever seen for Juventus in terms of emotional sadness. And I'm not going to lie, if you were going off performances that year, there was no reason why we wouldn't have extended him. He had 21 goal contributions in all comps, 15 GA in the league. He was by far and away our best player that season. We had just lost Ronaldo. Yes, we signed Vlahovic in January, but up until January, Dybala was really carrying. He had the team on his back, bro. And I think he deserved the renewal. And looking back on it in hindsight, yes, we bought in Pogba on a free. We bought Di Maria for a season. I'm sure if we could go back in time, we wouldn't have made the same decisions. He still had muscular problems this season, but nowhere near as many as he did the season before. I'm looking at this Dybala season and I'm thinking, good or incredible? You could even bump it up to incredible, genuinely. In terms of the revival from the season before, I got to show a lot of respect and pay homage to this Dybala season. I think it's better than the 18-19 season, for example. That's why I'm going to put it in incredible. I think this is such an underrated season for Dybala. Moving on now to 22-23 Dybala, his first season at Roma. He got 26 goal contributions this season, a couple injuries throughout it, but nothing too major. Of course, this was also the season where he scored in the Europa League final, and Roma were really unfortunate, and in my opinion, robbed to lose that final. It was his first season at Roma. He continued his great form. If I'm being honest, I think it's basically on par with 21-22. Because I'm going to be quite strict here. I'm going to move 21-22 Dybala down and also put 22-23 Dybala in good. I just want to be more selective with the incredible seasons, if that makes sense. But 22-23 Dybala had a lot of great moments. Again, proving why he should have been renewed by the club and not letting go of for free. I think overall that was probably his best season at Roma. In terms of performances, reliability, games played. Big moments too, scored at the San Siro. But emotionally, it was hard, I'm not going to lie, for every Juventus fan to see him in a Roma kit. It was weird. It still is weird to this day. Moving on to 23-24 Dybala, pretty much on par with 22-23. Same amount of goal contributions, 26 in all comps. More goal contributions in the Serie A. But riddled with injuries this season. Not called up to the Copa America. Missed every World Cup qualification game pretty much. But it was still a good season. I can't put it in decent. I'll put it in good. And last season, 24-25 season, Paulo Dybala, it wasn't great. 12 goal contributions in all competitions, constant injuries, bro. From like March to the end of the season, he was either on the bench for every game or he missed due to injury. Again, and now we're in a situation where even Paulo now, constant injuries. Physically, he's not there anymore. Technically, of course, he still gives you moments of brilliance, but this is the worst season we've seen from Dybala since the 2020-21 season. It wasn't a good season at all from him. Of course, numerically, he's better than his first season at Palermo. He didn't have a massive impact. I'll just put it in decent, to be honest. And lastly, I've gone with a bit of a rogue one. I've just put Argentina Dybala, just throughout his whole national team career, because it's something that I really wanted to talk about. At the end of the day, if you look at the trophies Paulo won for Argentina, it will be a success. He lifted the World Cup. He also won the Finalissima, scoring in the final. But he lifted the World Cup, the most prestigious trophy in sports history. Like, it's the number one. And Dybala wasn't integral in that World Cup. He didn't start week in, week out, game in, game out. But he had his moments. He scored his penalty in the final. He made a sick tackle on Mbappe, which could have ended easily in a goal for France. He did his role in that team, and his role wasn't to be a starter. His role wasn't to lead the lines and carry Argentina to victory because they had the greatest of all time to do so. And Dybala at this point was, as I said, riddled with injuries. And I just think overall his Argentina career is a little bit bitter from my perspective. We all expected him to be the next Messi. We all expected Paulo to potentially even win a Ballon d'Or one day. But the problem was he was too similar to Messi in terms of play style. Obviously not on the same level, but his aesthetic was similar. It would have never worked. And it didn't work when we saw Dybala and Messi start together. It just didn't work. You could only start one or the other. And unfortunately for Paulo, the other one happens to be the best player to ever kick a ball. So for me, overall, his Argentina career, in terms of trophies, is incredible. He wasn't part of the Copa America wins, but he still won a World Cup. I'm sure he's over the moon with what he achieved for Argentina. But in terms of individually, numbers, game time, it's not incredible. It's not what we all expected when we saw this kid really at the pinnacle of world football. But overall, I'll put it in good for the trophies he won. In terms of ranking it, 19, 20, 17, 18, 16, 17, I'm happy as top 3. 15, 16, and 14, 15 swap. I'd probably go 22, 23, then 21, 22, then 23, 24, 18, 19, got Argentina 13, 14. Swap those two and have it like that. Yeah, I'm quite happy with that ranking. Also, comment below any other players you want me to do a tier list ranking for. We can do every single season of their career. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Like the video if you enjoyed, boys. Share the video with some friends, and I'll see you in the next one.